If your job requires you to do any kind of analysis, then you must know SUMIFS and AVERAGEIFS functions very well. The good news is, these are very simple functions to master. And amazingly, in the next few minutes, you would have learned everything there is to learn in these functions. So let's get started, shall we? We will begin with SUMIF and SUMIFS function. In this sheet, we have data about a company that sells laptops, tablets, and phones. As always, if you would like to practice along, you can download the file from the link given in the description. The company sells these through 3 channels: COCO stores, online, and through partner stores. COCO stands for company owned, company operated. So in a sense, these are the stores that the company runs themselves. We have data for 2 months, and our first bit of analysis is to find out the total sales for each product. Before we get into the function, let's first do this manually. This is important because if you understand the manual steps, then understanding the function is very simple. Let's work with laptops. If we need to find the total laptop sales, then our first step would be to filter on laptop within column B. So let's do that. Once we filter, we can add the values in column D, which if you see in the status bar gives the sum as 8750. Let's clear the filter. If we want, we can do the same for tablets and phones. Now instead of repeating these steps manually, let's look at the functions. I'll begin by writing SUMIF. The first parameter is range. Now going back to the manual process, we first identified the column where we wanted to apply the filter. That is same as this parameter range. So we will select B2 to B19. Let's fix the reference. Now the next parameter is criteria. If you recollect the manual process, we then applied the filter by selecting laptop. We will do that exact same step here too. We will select the cell F2. Now the final parameter is called sum range. This is again same as the manual process. Once we had filtered, we were adding the values that were displayed in column D. So we will provide the values D2 to D19. Fix the reference. Close the bracket and we get the result as 8750. And we can copy it to the other cells. So if you see, the function is similar to the manual steps and therefore it is fairly easy to understand and remember. But here's a little twist. There is a close cousin of this formula called SUMIFS. SUMIF finds sum of value based on one condition, whereas SUMIFS finds sum of values based on one or more conditions. Since SUMIFS works on one condition as well, I don't really recommend using SUMIF. I always prefer to use SUMIFS. The reason I do that is very simple. If after you've done some analysis, you want to add one more condition, then with SUMIFS it becomes easy. If you've used SUMIF, then you have to completely rewrite the formula. However, if you've used SUMIFS, then all you need to do is add the additional conditions. Let's see 2 examples of how SUMIFS works. This time we will write SUMIFS for only one condition. We are again calculating the total units sold for each product. Let's look at the formula. If you look at the formula, there is one minor difference from the SUMIF formula. We need to provide the sum range before the criteria range and criteria. If you recall, while using SUMIF, we first selected the data in column B, then we provided the value laptop and finally the data in column D. Here we will start with what we need to add. This change is necessary as this allows us to add as many conditions required, one after the other. So returning to the function, sum range is D2 to D19 and fix the reference. Now let's provide the criteria range 1 as B2 to B19, fix the reference, and criteria as F2. Close the bracket and we can copy the formula. We get the same result. We will now look at our second example of SUMIFS, where we provide two conditions. We now need to find out the total sales for each product by each channel. How many units of laptop did the company sell via Coco stores, online, and partners? And similarly for tablets and phones too. So let's begin. SUMIFS. Sum range is D2 to D19 and fix the reference. Now let's provide the criteria range 1 as B2 to B19 and fix the reference. Criteria is F8. We need to add one more condition for the channel. So we'll add details for criteria range 2 and criteria 2. Our second condition is the channel, so we'll select the cells C2 to C19, which contains the list of channels. Fix the reference. Now the next parameter is the criteria 2, which will assume different values from Coco Store, online and partners. I will select G7 where we have the value Coco Store. We can close the bracket to get the result. Now before I copied, I need to adjust the references for criteria 1 and criteria 2. Instead of F8, we will write it as $F8 so that the function refers to the correct product name as we copy the formula right. And instead of G7, we can write it as G$7 so that the function refers to the correct channel names as we copy the formula down. We can now easily copy the formula to get all the values. Now let's move to AVERAGEIF and AVERAGEIFS. The functions SUMIF and AVERAGEIF work exactly the same way. Similarly, the four functions SUMIFS, AVERAGEIFS, MAXIFS and MINIFS work exactly the same way. I have another video for MAXIFS and MINIFS. I will add the link for that in the description below. For now, let's get back to the AVERAGEIF function. Quick look at the data. We have stock price data for 3 companies over 5 days. Let's find the average stock price for the 3 companies. We'll write the AVERAGEIF formula. I'm sure by now you've seen how similar it is to the SUMIFS formula. Let's provide the range which contains the company names. Fix the reference. Criteria is F2 and the average range is D2 to T16. We can now copy the formula and we get the values. Now let's look at AVERAGEIFS. The 3 companies are divided into 2 sectors, tech and pharma. We need to find out the average stock price for both these sectors on each day. Let's write the AVERAGEIFS function. The function is similar to SUMIFS. Remember, in the multiple condition version, we'll provide the average range first. So we will select D2 to D16 and fix the reference. Now we need to provide 2 pairs of criteria range and criteria. They can be in any order that you like. I'm going to select C2 to C16 as the criteria range for sector. Fix the reference. And F8 for criteria, which refers to the value tech. Let's adjust the referencing right away by making it $F8. Now the second pair. Criteria ranges A2 to A16 for dates. Fix the reference. Criteria 2 is G7, which contains the first date. We will make it G$7 so that we can copy it across. We get the value for average stock price on 1st February for the tech sector. I'll copy it across now to get the remaining values. So as you can see, we took considerably less time to understand the AVERAGEIFS function because of similarity to the SUMIFS function. There are two common mistakes while writing these formulas with multiple conditions. The first is incorrect referencing. But don't worry, with little practice, it is easy to get it right. The second common mistake that I see is that people provide the sum range or the average range before every criteria range and criteria pair. The reason people make this error is because they try to learn the formula. You should never do that. Excel provides helpful guidance via tooltips, and you should look at that and provide the necessary parameters, rather than unnecessarily trying to remember the formula. That will make it easy for you. So that's a wrap on SUMIFS and AVERAGEIFS. I would always recommend that you use these versions and not worry about SUMIF and AVERAGEIF. However, I'll leave the choice with you. If you found this video useful and would like to see more such content, please subscribe to our channel. That will help you find us and our content easily. Thank you for watching. Till next time.